Everything's on fire. Everything's on fire. Everything's on fire.
Welcome back, everybody. Hopefully you've all enjoyed your holiday weekend, except for our brother in the Great White North. It was just a Monday for him, but we are back. We got a fun one tonight. We are using some new software, so any of our folks that are in the comments, in the chats here on YouTube or Facebook, let us know if you are hearing everything okay, seeing everything okay. It's a beautiful new time for Roto Heat because we're always trying to get better. And with that, we got even better with our guest this week. We brought in good friend of the show, Jordan Vanek. We are very excited that he's joined us. We've always had a good time in our conversations. Him and Craig have a playful relationship going back and forth. It was fun to see Craig jump in the chat an hour early to say he beat you here. Jordan, how are you, brother? And tell everybody where they can find you and what you're up to these days.
Yeah, pleasure to be here. I mean, you guys are a good group. I like everything Roto Heat has brought. You guys are fun, and I appreciate the content you guys have been producing and seeing some of the shows. And for me, you can find me at Gridiron Ratings, the Rumboyz Network, and Chalk Block for some DFS work. And most recently, I posted like a DFS article of like people to follow in this industry and like people to go out and get ahead and listen to and follow their content, because like this industry is not about one person. One person's rankings ain't gonna be the number one thing, but it's about who you actually enjoy listening to and who puts in the work. So thank you guys.
Well, I'm glad you're here tonight, man. We're gonna have a fun one tonight. Mr. Sullivan, what's happening for you? How are you, man?
Doing good, man. I feel like Dad let us take the good car out tonight. This is fun. I like it. No, man, it's good. Canada's hot today. Like we get summer for about 4 days, and this is one of them. So I'm pretty happy. It's actually hot in my house, which is a rare occurrence, but we bring the heat. So I guess that makes sense, right?
Yeah. You only bring the heat once a year is what I'm hearing. Is that what you're saying?
Twice. I'm like a broken clock. Twice a day, buddy.
I'm in South Florida, so heat is every single day down
here.
It's 79 here. Like, I won't even bother talking to you about heat then.
Yeah, it's I love being in Indiana when it gets warm because it stays warm for about 2 or 3 months and it feels good, but I just wish it would go a little bit longer. With that being said, so we've got some fun stuff coming up on the show. Tonight we are talking about trading. Everybody loves to trade. We're talking specifically about trading draft picks, which is something that everybody loves to trade come rookie drafts. But we want to talk about how we can handle those trades throughout the season, because there's some sweet spots. There's some good times to go get future rookie picks. So we want to talk about some of those things. But first, I want to make sure, anybody who watches this video, whether you're watching it now or in the future, like, subscribe, do all the things I ask you to do every time you see my face, because we love to have you here. We want you to come back. We want you to be in the comments and in the conversation, because we talk live with our people. We talk live with our people every show, and that's what we love to do. Also, tomorrow night, we've got a very special thing planned. We are going to be doing Poll Perception Battle Royale with our friends from Front Yard Fantasy. It's going to be a blast. I have no idea what to expect. I've watched the Poll Perception shows, and they're fun. I'm assuming Josh is going to have to carry me because he's the man at this, and I am a mere peasant in his presence. And we're going to have to take it to the house and beat the rest of these guys. So make sure you join us tomorrow night at 9 o'clock right here where you are finding this video, and we're going to have a good time. So with that being said, Mr. Sullivan, what's going on tonight? Let's talk news. And what else do you got?
Well, first of all, tomorrow night, I want to wish you all the luck there is. It's a great game show. It's a ton of fun. And just remember, there's no shame in second place.
We're coming for the win. This ain't a second place. That's the first loser. You're either first or last, baby.
No, Jay, and I got that thing in the bag. We already got measured for our championship belts, so it's a done deal.
No, those poll perception games are absolutely nuts.
Actually, Jay and I are way better in the chat than we are on the show, so I'm a little worried. So we'll see what happens. All right, a little bit of news and notes. We talked about Julio a little bit last week, Brad. I'm going to bring him up again this week. So it looks like, last week we talked about, is he going to move? It looks like now that he is actually requested to leave Atlanta. So it looks like that's going to come to fruition. There's, I think, about 31 teams that at one point or another in the last week and a half have been linked to him. So my question is Simple question. Where's he going to land? Jordan, where's Julio Jones going?
I think he's going to end up in New England. I think Bill Belichick, with his relationship with Nick Saban and also where Julio kind of stands, it makes perfect sense for them to go get a Julio Jones. And with that, it makes that team a very interesting one going into 2021, because now Mac Jones and / Cam Newton have the opportunity to have a Julio Jones receiving core, not a Nelson Aguilar receiving core. And that makes a huge difference. And in that division, I know the Bills dominated last year, but the Patriots had a lot of opt-outs. They had a lot of guys go back and forth. But I think New England will end up giving up that first, and I think Bill Belichick wants to win.
Brad, what do you think?
Yeah, for me, I don't know that getting Julio gets them any closer to beating Buffalo or even Miami at this point. Miami's built a strong foundation on the offense and the defensive side. Obviously, a young quarterback could be their downfall in year 2 of Tua, but I don't hate the Patriots. I think the Titans would be the most interesting spot for him to land. I don't know if it would help his fantasy value, though, because A.J. Brown's a beast, and that's my concern there. So as a Julio Jones owner in a couple spots, I just hope he stays in Atlanta. I mean, quite honestly, that's kind of the best spot for him at this point, because wherever he goes, he's going to have to pick up the new scheme, get in sync with the quarterback. Like, he's had all this time with Matt Ryan. Why change it right now? Why mess that up? Like, for me, I want him to stay in Atlanta, but it feels like he's gone already. What do you think, Sully?
I think he's gone, and I think it's twofold, right? You have the face of your franchise asking to go, and you don't have the salary cap room to pay your rookie class. So Julio post June 1 creates that space. So I guess it's a done deal. You make a good point about Matt Ryan and the system being similar, and that's why I want him to go to the Chargers, and that's why I want to see him with Herbert and have a trio with him and Mike Williams and Keenan Allen with Austin Eckler. I just think that's potentially a team that can really give the Chiefs a run for their money in that division. I don't think he's going there. I think he's going to Tennessee, and it kind of makes me sad because I think it's not that exciting, but it just makes a ton of sense, and that's where I think he's going to ultimately end up. Zach Ertz. So the Philadelphia Eagles apparently are done with Zach Ertz. They're either looking to trade him, which I think they would prefer, or ultimately he's probably going to get released. Is there an ideal landing spot, Brad, for Zach Ertz?
If it's anywhere other than Arizona, I'd be surprised. I mean, when you look at the teams that need tight end help, I mean, isn't Arizona kind of the team that, what do they got? Max Williams, and that's really it. I don't know that it does much for his fantasy value, because look at what they've done with their tight ends in the Kingsbury scheme. So that's kind of my gut tells me Arizona. It's kind of Arizona or bust if you want any fantasy relevance. But even then, I don't know that there's fantasy relevance with his scheme. What do you think, Jordan?
I got going back to his old coach with Indy. I think Indy is the kind of spot for me that he fits the scheme, going back with Wentz. And I mean, it's there's not like tight ends in fantasy don't exactly score too much. Like, he's not going to be Zach Ertz to the pass with getting close to 100 catches. I just think that with Indy, it might give you a few starts and finish in the 12 to 9 range of tight ends.
What about you, Sully?
How about a Zach Ertz for Jamison Crowder trade? Doesn't that make sense for both teams?
Yeah, I mean, if they're at this point, it seems like they'll take anything to get rid of him, because nobody's offering anything, is what it sounds like. So yeah,
I could see that too.
It's two guys that are likely probably going to get released, and two guys would be better in the other areas. And Josh is chiming in the chat. What about the Bengals? I think that makes sense as well. There's only one football in Cincinnati, though, so I'm not sure how that's going to play out at the end of the day, but we shall see. And I'll wrap up this abbreviated news and notes because I want to get into trading of draft picks from you two fine gentlemen. Sean Payton says that the Chiefs, let's try that again. Payton says that the Saints, that's where he's coached for a while, they're going to heavily lean on the run game early in the season. So Alvin Kamara and Latavius Murray, do we buy that? Or is that coach speak, Jordan? Or are they just talking it up while they sort out their quarterback situation?
I buy it. I mean, regardless, it's not Drew Brees under center, and if it is, they do start Taysom Hill over Drew Brees, then they're a run-first team, and they're going to rely on their running backs. And I think it's smart to give the ball to your best player and Alvin Kamara, and also Michael Thomas is still coming off of multiple surgeries from this offseason. And it's not that they're going to just completely disregard throwing the football. I just think they're going to want to run the ball and kind of play defense as they figure out, okay, can we protect Jameis from turning over the ball, and can we make it so Taysom Hill doesn't have to throw the football? Those are the two things that I would be avoiding if I was the Saints.
Yeah. It seems like whoever the quarterback is, that's kind of the direction they'll go. If Jameis is the guy, you're going to see him chuck the ball down the field, but then who is he really throwing it to? I mean, we haven't seen a lot of development from basically anyone outside of Thomas. So it feels like they have to lean on the run because that's where their best players are. I think Adam Troutman will take a step forward this year, but even then, he's not a deep threat. He's a middle of the field, kind of short to intermediary routes guy. So it wouldn't surprise me if they focused on the run. I mean, that's their best way because those are their best playmakers.
Yeah, I agree. And I just keep battling with who the quarterback's going to be in my head. I still think it's Jameis, but I think it's Jameis with a good chunk of Hill in probably the red zone, which kind of scares me a little bit. Makes sense that they would, to Jordan's point and to yours, Brad, that they would lean on the run a little bit more, especially early on in the season. Maybe it's finally Traquan Smith time. Maybe he can have the Devontae Parker fifth-year breakout, but we shall see.
Well, and I think the more interesting question is, what if the Saints pivot to this new philosophy where they're running multiple quarterbacks? Why can't you? I mean, it would suck for fantasy, but I mean, neither one of these guys is really that awesome that you couldn't run both of them and just, kind of go with the hot hand, go with, kind of gadgety plays. Like, what if they're changing the way the NFL thinks about the quarterback?
Maybe, but where has that ever worked?
I'm not saying it's going to work. I'm throwing the conversation out there going, hey, let's see if this pickle sticks to the wall. All right. So we've got two quarterbacks. Neither one of them are really the guy. Let's rotate them.
I mean, for me with that, it frustrated the hell out of me to go see the Saints play the Vikings and watch them not give the ball to Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara and let Taysom Hill play this, role where he's going to RPO. Deontay Harris is going deep. They're going to throw the ball downfield. It's like, you got to the playoffs with these guys. Use these guys. It would frustrate me as a fan watching it, but I can't imagine the guys in the huddle, like the rhythm. That would just throw things off so much, I feel like, with timing of throws and the way you're running your routes. It would be an interesting thing. As a Panthers fan, go for it. Do it, Saints. Let's see it.
Well, hey, you talking about Vikings Saints. It was a little frustrating watching Alvin Kamara score 6 freaking times against the Vikings last year.
Yeah, no, he helped me in a championship, so it's okay. I appreciate it.
I'm glad someone benefited from that. Brad, that's all I got, brother. Take it away, my friend.
All right. So we're going to have a fun conversation, and we're going to talk all about trading tonight. I think this is an important conversation because most of the time when I'm getting DMs on Twitter or messages in Discord or wherever you talk to me about fantasy, it's always trades. It's always, how do you value these guys? And a lot of times it's, how do you value trading rookie picks? Rookie picks have a different kind of value scale depending on what time of year you're in, at least from what I've observed. So I want to talk about it in kind of two phases. One is throughout the entire season, and then one is come draft weekend or draft time in your league, because they're two very different beasts to attack. So now that we're past draft season, let's talk about draft season. I'll start with you, Jordan. What are you doing with your rookie picks? And I pulled up some of the trades I did draft weekend just so that I can let you guys laugh at the trades I've made. But what are you doing with rookie picks come draft time? Are you looking to move to gain more resources? Are you a guy that wants to trade up, trade down? What's kind of your philosophy on draft weekend when you're, trying to build your roster?
So for me, it varies draft class to draft class. This draft class specifically with the wide receiver group, I personally think it falls off dramatically after the top 4 to 5, because I think that Rondale Moore, good at football, still 5'7". Terrace Marshall, good at football. Injury history that scares me as a Panthers fan, where his leg injury, it's still unknown what exactly happened. And then Tutu Atwell and even Devontae Smith, he's 106 or 170 pounds. And you go last year's draft class where the running backs were just all great landing spots, all butterflies, sunshine, rainbows. and I wanted to acquire more picks in this draft, I have like a cutoff for me. And like in Superflex, it's like 204, 205, and then if anything above it is, or for redraft, I guess non-Superflex, it would be like 107, 109. And after that, I have every draft pick on the block for people to go ahead. If you want your guy, like I'll take the Robbie Anderson. I'll take the guy who's 28 years old and for some reason is just going to fall off the face of the earth, because in Dynasty, that's what happens. You turn 29 and all of a sudden you're just not good at football. That's my philosophy.
True statement. All right, Mr. Sullivan, what's your take on all the madness come draft weekend?
Well, it really depends on the situation of my roster heading into it. For me, typically I can see when it's time to blow it up, and love these backgrounds. Typically I can tell when it's time to blow my team up, and I don't sort of kind of rebuild. I blow it up. So I'll start liquidating my rookie picks mid-season the year before, I'll start liquidating assets that I think can yield me rookie picks. And my favorite way to rebuild is to then turn around and take those picks and trade them for established assets. So we had 858 skilled positional players drafted from 2010 to 2020. And the percentage of them that deliver you fantasy relevant seasons is ridiculously low. It's actually 23% that will deliver you either a top 12 quarterback, 24 running back, 36 wide receiver, or top 12 tight end season. That's low. And for me to be able to take the hype of the Kyle Pitts, the Jamar Chase, the Najee Harrises, and turn it into an established asset, that's how I like to rebuild. Now, it doesn't always work out, and I will absolutely take those guys if I'm on the clock. But if I'm going to trade my picks that I haven't traded already, I'm carrying them into my draft or as close to my draft as possible, because those rookie picks seem to really gain value post NFL draft. Like once we have a landing spot for people can, they have the visions of Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow lighting it up, or Kyle Pitts or Najee Harris getting fed in Pittsburgh. That helps. So that's kind of my strategy.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about, because the way that people value their draft picks come draft time, it just gets insane to think about it. So I want to throw out a couple hypothetical trades that are not hypothetical. They really happen. A couple of trades I did. So I'm in a league. It's a 32-team league, so 2 16-team divisions. Come draft weekend, I kind of evaluated my roster. I was just dead at running back. I had Zach Moss. That's really all I have. And it was a guy I didn't want, but he was thrown on a trade. But I was loaded everywhere else. Quarterback set. It's a full IDP, so I have my IDP set. DK, Juju, Devontae Adams. I had a lot of wide receivers. Tight ends are fine. I got Irv Smith and Cole Kmet and a few other guys that were all very playable. So I went in the draft going, okay, I want to get 2 starting running backs out of this draft. I don't know how that's going to look because my pick was 1-9. Like I'm not getting one of the top tier guys at 1-9. So I went to the guy who had 1-1. I was like, listen, I know you need running back, but your team sucks. You're at 1-1. Let's talk. How do I get up to 1-1? I literally sent him Devontae Adams for 1-1 and got some other draft picks in the conversation. Then I immediately turned around and took 1-9 and Cole Kmet and got Nick Chubb. So I wound up turning my two running back need into both those running backs, and then I just sat the rest of the draft with BPA.
Is it super flex as well?
It is not super flex.
How the hell did you turn 1-9 and Kmet into Chubb? That's awesome.
So the guy that had Chubb is actually trying to rebuild, and Chubb was like the last piece he had left that nobody would give him anything for it that was of value. So I'm sorry, I actually gave him 215 as well. So I gave him a late second, a late first, and Cole Kmet. And he'd been trying to trade him all offseason, and nobody was giving him good value because it seems like people either love or hate Chubb. Like every league I'm in, I've kind of tried to weigh the value of Nick Chubb, and it seems like almost split down the middle. You either love him or you hate him, and I love him. I just didn't think I'd be able to get him. So, after I made the trade for 1-1, took Najee Harris, and then I said, okay, I'm looking for another running back. I'm looking to move 1-9 and other picks, because at that point I was like 1-9 is not going to get me what I want. And then made some other trades, got some more depth at wide receiver, and and really filled in my roster that way. But come draft weekend, people are willing to make trades, and sometimes it gets crazy. I mean, I overpaid to get 1-1. I knew I was going to do that, but I also was okay with it because I'm trying to get away from Green Bay's offense, because it's just if Aaron Rodgers is gone, I just don't trust it, and I'm okay with moving one guy one time, because this league you don't get trades done. So I made those trades. In another league, I flipped 110 for multiple picks in the future. So I tend to take two different approaches. If my teams are ready to compete, I'll sell whatever I need to get the player I need. If my teams are not competing, I will sell those picks for future picks and just keep focusing on rebuilding. So that's kind of how I look at draft weekend. Like, I look at where my roster is and I say, okay, do I have a chance to compete if I can fill one specific need? Or do I just need to keep selling for future and look for higher picks? Because if I'm selling 1, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, can I get something that could be 1, 5 and up next year? Things like that.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
I'm shocked that you got Nick Chubb. I'm still in my head. I'm like, Cole Kmet is a good football, but like, is it tight end premium? Is it PPR?
Yes, it is PPR.
Okay. So the Devontae Adams trade, I'm thinking you overpaid.
I overpaid.
Right. It's not even that crazy of an overpay if Devontae Adams does lose Aaron Rodgers, because he's not going to get 18 touchdowns.
Right.
Those touchdowns probably go all the way to somewhere in the 5 to 8 range, I would assume, with Jordan Love. Yeah. And at his age, like Najee Harris, if I'm assuming that's who you drafted at 1-1 with your running back situation.
Yeah.
Okay. Because
Najee, so now I have Najee and Chubb.
Yeah, that's 2 running backs getting 300 touches next year. like off of touches alone, as long as they're healthy for 16 games, you're probably guaranteed 2 top 15 running backs.
Mm-hmm. And that was what I was looking at. In this league, I picked this team up as an orphan, and it was just a dumpster fire. And I just couldn't get people to get me running backs. Like I couldn't get a good running back. I had gotten who did I get? I don't remember who I got now. First year in the league, I got somebody who went down, and it was a waste of my time. And I just couldn't get. After that, I just said, you know what? I'm just going to take best player available, and it was DK Metcalf and and some of these other guys. So, that's kind of my two-pronged approach. Based on my team, am I continuing to rebuild, or am I trying to win now? And then what do I do to make that happen? Craig has a question. 1 QB PPR 14-team league. 101 and 207, or 104 and a 2022 first. So this is a 1 QB. So 101 is either Jamar Chase or Najee, I would guess. Or he might have his on its way back up. No, it's not Kyle Pitts.
Yes, it is.
Just quiet down. It's not. It doesn't say tight end premium.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't have to.
I won't allow it. Well, I guess Jordan, you're the tiebreaker. Would you take Kyle Pitts in a 101 in a 1 QB league that isn't tight end premium?
Dependent upon like the team structure I had, yes, but I would also try to stay in the top 3 and let the other 2 take Najee and Jamar Chase before I had to make that decision, personally. Because this trade right here, I'm looking at it and I'm like, 104 is my big fall off in talent for me. I look at the top 3 with Najee, Chase, and Pitts as like clearly head and shoulders above the rest of the class. So I feel like I would rather stay at the 101, 207, especially if you're on your way back up from a rebuild, and just secure the Jamar Chase, Kyle Pitts, or Najee. And just 207 is definitely a fall off, especially in a 14-team league. But, man, I don't want to see that drop in talent.
What about you, Mr. Sullivan? How do you feel about this? Which side are you on?
It's really dependent upon my roster again. And I know that's a cop-out answer, but I don't really like to add running back unless my team is ready, because I think that's the last piece of the puzzle. So in this scenario, if I'm ready to rock and roll, I don't know how I ended up at the 101, but maybe I did. So I'm going to take that running back. I'll take Najee and I'll move forward with that. The 207, if I'm that contender, I don't really care about. But if I'm not, then I am going to probably take that 104, grab myself a wide receiver, or grab Kyle Pitts if there's 3 silly people that drafted ahead of me. And then I will take the 2022 first and see what happens. Because the one thing about that first is that's probably now assuming that you're going to have 2 of them. And that gives you capital and weapons for this upcoming season all the way through prior to the draft. So I don't mind adding future draft picks. I don't like doing the draft picks for 2 years out because I just think there's so much uncertainty. And Brad, you'd probably be better at that trade than I would because of your Devy involvement. I don't really know who's coming out in a couple of years from now. I barely know who came out this year. So I'm taking the 104 and the 2022 first in this scenario.
That's what happens when you only research Kyle Pitts.
Hey,
The reason I had to, like, after I watched him, I was like, I'm done. This is easy.
college football
Boom.
DFS teaches you so much about the incoming prospects. Like I knew Dwayne Eskridge played corner for Western Michigan, and I'm like, why? Why do I know stuff like this? Hey, I know this now, and I mean, I'll say this: the 2023 class is a lot better than 2022, but it's also going to depend on these guys staying healthy and staying out of trouble.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see who tries to come out early. You know, the 2022 quarterback class looks to be, you know, I mean, there just isn't a lot to get excited about. But if some of these guys with the availability to get out early maybe come out, I mean, it really makes things more interesting. You know, I mean, the 2022 class has some really interesting defensive prospects, and there's some wide receivers that I think have potential. Tight ends, I think, are going to be really thin. Running backs could be nice. I mean, but again, it comes with, you know, do guys come out early? Do they declare things like that?
And also this past year, just a shortened season with college football. Like we didn't get to see a lot of guys actually perform at that super high level, and a lot of the opt-outs that we have no idea about. And like we also just had like a blessing of Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence. Like we knew every quarterback to like, okay, these guys are all the top tier guys. And like at Alabama, now it's Brian Robinson's time. And we got a new entire offense with Bill O'Brien, and Clemson, their backup running back now gets a full workload. We get to see how talented he is. And the 2022 class, the player I'm excited about is Treylon Burks from Arkansas.
Oh,
that dude can freaking play. He's actually not small and 5'7", so I'm excited about it.
Yeah, no, Burke should be very nice. He's a fun prospect to watch, and you know, and that's the fun thing about a team like Arkansas. You've got a guy that's bringing people to watch you. I mean, they haven't had much of that in a while. I mean, I think you know, Rakeem Boyd was fun to watch. He went undrafted, you know, and now he's in Detroit. Like guys that I looked at, I was like, oh, this guy's fun to watch. He's probably not draftable, but he's fun to watch. Treylon Burks is fun to watch. Yeah. His film was good. Yeah. You know, Treylon Burks' film was great, and he should be drafted probably in the first or second round somewhere easily this upcoming year. And for my point of this trade, Craig, both of these teams in my mind are rebuilding because you're 101 and 104. You know, so for me, I would rather take the 2022 first as well as the 104, unless you love 101 and you want Jamar or Najee. But I mean, even if you're rebuilding, maybe your team isn't strong enough that you need running back. So you're going to have to waste that 101 on a running back that may not do you may not be ready to compete when he's in his viable window. So for me, give me the 104. You'll probably be able to take Kyle Pitts there because nobody in their right mind drafts him in the top 2 or 3. No, just kidding. I've seen people do it. I don't hate on people doing it.
Settle down. Yeah. I agree. But if I'm holding the 101, I'm taking Chase, because it doesn't make sense to draft running back if you're rebuilding. Yeah,
in a 1 QB in this format, you got to take your top receiver.
I think so too.
And you know, and that is Jamar Chase in this case.
Kyle Pitts. Oh, sorry.
Well, he
might be a wide receiver. Look at the big brain on Sully. Hey,
he may be their top receiver because, you know, we haven't seen Calvin Ridley have to deal with consistent double, triple coverage like Julio is having to fight through.
True.
So you know, it'll be interesting to see if Calvin has the same production, you know, because it might be the Kyle Pitts show. He may have to, but, you know, he's going to have to do something that a lot of tight ends have done. You've done all your research, Sully. How do rookie tight ends fare? Not
good at all. Terrible, in fact. So there's been 2 tight ends drafted since 2010 that put up a top 12 rookie season. They are Rob Gronkowski in 2010, who was the tight end 12, and Evan Ingram when the entire New York Giants offense got hurt in his rookie season, finished as tight end 5. I looked it up stat-wise. rookie tight ends, first round drafted tight ends, I think there was 6 or 7 in the last 11 years, average about 30 catches, 400 yards, and 2 touchdowns a season. So I could be way off base, or this kid could be super special. So I am totally the guy that follows. I studied the last 11 years rookie picks. I like historical data. It's how I form my decisions. And I'm right off the rails with this. I get it. But man, it's fun. And it's going to be, I don't know. I'm either smart or dumb as hell. We'll find out soon enough.
Well, and the thing I tell people is at the end of the day, as long as you're happy with the moves you made, take your guy. Like, you know.
Yeah. But you know, when you take a look, and this is the last thing I'll say about this and stop hijacking the show. When you take a look at the difference between a top 3 tight end and tight end 12, and then you compare that to, say, wide receiver 6 and wide receiver 14, the difference on a weekly basis is dramatically different at the tight end position. So if you draft Kyle Pitts and he turns into being Waller, Kelsey, Kittle, you're set. And you're set for probably 8 to 10 years, barring any injury. You have plenty of opportunities to be able to find wide receivers and running backs in other years. You don't find tight ends like this very often. In fact, this could be Tony Gonzalez, 16 years as a top 10 tight end. You're set. So that's why I'm as high on him as I am. It's not crazy talk, as the guy who founded this channel says it is. It's not. And it's the hill I'm dying on.
I mean,
get that comment out of here. We have such amazing people in our chat tonight. It's lit. We've got like the front yard family, like basically having a love-in in there, and that's the comment you throw up there. Come on, man.
So I will add that Craig has a bunch of firsts in 2022 already. He's got 111, 112, 113, and 201. So
I would go to the 104 with that.
Yeah,
the picks that he's got, just might as well have 3 firsts next year, 4 firsts this year.
Totally. And you know what? And then start, if the picks that you have this year start to make your team a little bit better, then you have so much ammunition to rebuild in a hurry. So I like that.
Yeah. So there you go. So there's that. I will throw out, because I was looking through some of my other leagues while Sully's Pits Fest was going on. I did make in our in our Roto Heat Superflex League, that's Mr. Sullivan and I am in.
Yes,
I seem to be the only one making trades come draft weekend. So I was looking through the trades that I was making, and I did. This is a rebuilding team. It's Superflex. I don't think this one's tight end premium, but my quarterbacks were Daniel Jones. Like, I mean, I sold and was rebuilding. My running backs are good, and I've got some receivers and I got some tight ends, but I had nothing at quarterback. So I traded, what did I trade? I traded a GG. So Antonio Gandy Golden, Darnell Mooney, 1-9, 110, and I got 105 and 2-7. So 105 got me Zach Wilson, because that was what was best available at that point at quarterback. So basically I traded 1-9, 110, and then 2 wide receivers that I'm not super high on to move up. And I don't even know what I did at 207. I probably don't care. It's probably
yeah, I don't think you made that trade for that pick.
Oh no, yeah, 207 was Terrace Marshall, and I actually traded out of that pick. I traded, let's see, come draft weekend, I traded 1, 2, 3, 4 times, and it was basically trading up once and then back a bunch of times. So, and added picks for, other picks and things like that. So, in my mind, I needed a quarterback. I like Zach Wilson. I don't know that I'm in love with him. Fields and Lawrence, I think, were the cream of the crop. I think Lance and Wilson both have potential, but there are just as many questions as there are, ability there. So just throwing some more of my fun trades out there. I
like Wilson. I just fear that he might be a better real life quarterback than a fantasy quarterback, but I do like him. And, we talked about Crowder early. I think he's better if Crowder stays. I think he needs that stability in that offense. So especially with Corey Davis's shoulder injury sounding like it's a little bit more serious than they're letting on.
Yeah, I'm not too big on Zach Wilson because of the rushing noms, like not being able to run as much, and also the weapons. They're still in a little bit of a build. It's like, where do you think Zach Wilson will finish his rookie year? And it's I can't see him being in the top 20. I can't. With how the Jets offense currently is structured, it's just not super exciting, but it's definitely a step forward for, like, as a rookie, if I'm going anywhere, I think going into a Shanahan disciple with weapons that are young and shown potential. And it's tough. I think fantasy football will eventually go to more so total yards for quarterback, because I think that will end up being the new move relatively shortly, because there's really no reason Jalen Hurts should be scoring more than a lot of these guys. But hey, I get it. Running the football matters. It's cool. 10 yards rushing is exactly a 30-yard pass. Or a 25-yard pass. It's fine.
Right.
That's just the same thing.
So there you go. So there's some, I like to put my stuff out there. That's what I've done come draft weekend in a few leagues. I have plenty other leagues, and I did a whole lot of more trades because I am of the opinion that you can't have enough trades. Sometimes I make terrible decisions, and I trade myself back into good decisions, but I'm a trader. That's what I do. Now, during the season is a whole nother ball of wax. How do you guys handle trading draft picks in season? Are you of the mindset that if it helps you get the piece you need to make the run or fill in the injury or whatever, do it? Or are you a guy that tries to hoard picks come during the season? Jordan, what do you do in season managing your rookie draft picks? So
I usually assess like where I'm at, like you said, like making the run or not. And this past year, this is a perfect example of a trade that was absolutely awesome for me. That worked out really well in my favor here. It was
sorry, that was good.
Yeah, that's hilarious. But I was middle of the pack, and my running backs were not too great, and it was just kind of guys that I just don't trust the full year, which was Joe Mixon and Chris Carson. So, and I also had Melvin Gordon on that team. So another guy that was a good team but just was missing running backs, I gave him Melvin Gordon, a few other, Julio Jones, and like two other players for what eventually ended up being a lottery pick, because we do a lottery with our rookie draft. And in a super flex league, I got the 101 from it. I was able to get rid of Melvin Gordon, Julio Jones for essentially the 101. And like, I'll take that any day of the week. It's like I knew my team wasn't capable of winning the championship at the time, unless it was just kind of a crazy run. And that's how I usually do it. Like I traded Jarvis Landry for 202 in the season because I saw that guy's team he could borderline miss the playoffs, and he ended up just getting derailed with injuries. There's been multiple trades, and on the flip side of things, I've made last year I traded Clyde Edwards-Helaire and a second for Miles Sanders because Clyde had just gotten hurt, and I needed that running back, and I regret that trade. It's like, at the end of the day, when you go in season, you're trading rookie picks. It's one, if your league's not a lottery, it's worse in a sense, because your lottery picks have so much value. I think we have 4 or 5 years straight where the number one odds has not gotten number one pick.
That's wrong.
And the thing is, we have a 35 or 40, I think it's 40% chance. And there was a year where the 6th best odds hit. And it was like 4% chance or some nonsense. And I was just like, that's why I like to be able to, okay, this team's not making the playoffs. He's getting the lottery. I'm going after him. That's what I usually do.
There you go. So before we get to you, Mr. Sullivan, CJ Moore has a question for us. He's got 4th pick in a half-point PPR Dynasty startup draft. Who do you think I should go with?
Is it 1 QB or is it Superflex? Does it say?
It does not say. I'm gonna lean 1 QB, and I'll probably be wrong. So let's answer both. Let's answer if you're in a 1 QB and in a Superflex. Who are you going with?
You want me to start?
Yeah. Well, I cut you off, so you might as well get the first shot at it, man.
Brad, this is your show. I'm just pleased to be here. If I follow my rankings, I think I'm probably taking Alvin Kamara at 4 in a 1 QB startup. And Superflex, I'd love to, if I have the 4th pick, to get out of there with Mahomes, Allen, Kyler, or either Dak or Justin Herbert. So one of those quarterbacks would be who I would be targeting with that pick.
Yeah, for me, I think in a super flex league, I'm going Lamar. I'm a huge Lamar guy. This year, I refuse to think he's going to run for less than 1,000 yards. And assuming the top three are McCaffrey, Saquon, and Jonathan Taylor for the half point, it's a tough decision. I think I lean Nick Chubb. I think Nick Chubb is my running back for half point because just of his pure rushing upside. And I think he's got 2 more years until he gets to that contract, which is what I don't want. And I think this year he'll be running for it. And with Kareem Hunt there, like it didn't matter. Like we saw with when Nick Chubb was healthy, he was, I think, one of 3 running backs who averaged over 90 rushing yards a game.
Yeah, he was a
if I'm
beast.
not mistaken.
I like it. I will say, CJ, I put up this direction. RotoHeat.com, the rankings that Mr. Sullivan's talking about, we have them there. The consensus would be either Saquon or Christian McCaffrey. Typically in a super flex startup, I go quarterback in the first round. In the first, probably 4 to 7 picks or quarterback in my mind. You don't have to, though. Depends on what you're looking for your team to be. I don't hate taking a guy like Christian McCaffrey 4. I love the idea of a Nick Chubb at 4. Like I love both of those players. So I am perfectly fine going any way you want to go.
I'll just say one thing really quickly is those rankings are PPR rankings. So I know the question was half point. So just take that into consideration when looking at those.
Yep, those are full point PPR. So typically I would lean quarterback, but and I actually believe I saw on Twitter today that people are taking Trevor Lawrence in the first round of startups. So
I've done 2 super flex startups and I picked 9th in both, and one I got I can't remember. I remember I got Christian McCaffrey somehow in one of them. And I don't recall who the other one was, but both times that I got on the clock at 9, Lawrence was already gone.
Ooh. I'm not taking him in the first round until I see something. I mean, I don't know that I trust Urban Meyer. I don't know what to make of what he's going to do. I've seen Darrell Bevel in action, so if he allows Bevel to run that offense, maybe.
I think it's sort of like my Kyle Pitts admiration. If you believe in the player, that's the cheapest you're ever going to get him, so go for it. But if you have hesitation and you don't, then I totally understand you passing on him there for sure.
Yeah, but what do you think happens to his value? Let's say year 1 doesn't go the way people would anticipate, and he just doesn't look good. The system looks maybe too much for him. Like, I got to think, if you're taking him somewhere in the first round of a startup, I got to think he's a little less expensive come year 2 if he really doesn't pan out in year 1 and it doesn't look good.
I guess it depends on why he doesn't look good. Like if Urban Meyer runs some trash offense, Trevor Lawrence lasts way longer than Urban Meyer, so I'm not going to worry about it in that context. But if it's a Darrell Bevel offense that we saw, Matthew Stafford and Russell Wilson and other quarterbacks perform well in, and he struggles in that, then I believe that's a different story. So I agree. There's risk tied to it, but like I said, 20 some odd % of these guys are good. So there's risk on every pick you make. So if it's a startup, I would go established guy and try to stay away from a rookie as best as I could, for sure.
Agreed. Absolutely. So there you go, CJ. Thank you for jumping in. If you guys have questions, make sure you pop them on. We've got probably another, 15-ish minutes of fun trading draft pick conversations. So get those questions in. We'll make sure we get them answered. You've been seeing me pop up the notice for tomorrow's show. Don't forget to like, subscribe, do all the things so you can join us tomorrow night and watch us make fools of ourselves trying to guess poll perception with with our boys from Front Yard Fantasy. So, Mr. Sullivan, I did cut you off. What do you do in season with your draft picks when you're trading them, hoarding them? What's your strategy?
I had a good year last year for the most part. So I didn't have a whole lot of draft picks come this rookie draft season. I don't shy away from an opportunity to win. So I'll go all in and make some trades. And I made some really bad trades. I traded a first for Andy Dalton last year. I traded Jonathan Taylor and Laviska Shenault for Derrick Henry. And I didn't win either one of those leagues, so I regret it. I also packaged together Saquon Barkley and a first and something else that got me back Allen Robinson, Dalvin Cook, and something else, and I won one of the 96-team Roto Heat leagues. So I'm happy with that trade. So I'm a gambler when it comes to, I think if I can win, I'm going to go for it. And again, like I kind of said at the top, if I have a team that I don't feel has a legitimate chance, I'll start to chip away and burn it to the ground. And I will try to acquire as many draft picks as I possibly can. Superflex leagues, I kind of like to hoard second-round picks. And I really thought that would pay off in the one league where I was rebuilding. That's cute. But there was a drop-off that I didn't anticipate in the second round of both 1 QB and Superflex leagues this year. I thought they would be a lot deeper than they were, and they weren't. So, but no, honestly, if I can win, the championship flags fly forever. I don't care. I will trade anything for anything if I think I'm going to be able to win. I'll worry about next year, but I don't always make the best moves.
Well, and that's the one thing I'd be interested to see people track is when they go all in and they try to make the trades to win it, how often, what's the success rate? Because I've done the same thing, and I feel like 9 times out of 10, it blows up in my face.
Yeah.
And then I have nothing to show for it, and I'm trading players to try to recoup those draft picks afterwards. I've seen it win for me as well, but, I feel like more often than not, it probably doesn't go the way we'd hope.
Yeah, well, my personal statistics from last year is I went all in 6 leagues, and I won twice. So 2 wins last year is 2 wins more than I normally have, to be totally transparent. So I'm okay with it. But there's a lot of buyer's remorse even after winning those titles going into this season because they're super flex leagues and because I'm carrying Tom Brady and Ben Roethlisberger back into this season. And I've traded away the next 2 years' first-round picks for Antonio Gibson and a share of Aaron Jones. Like I blew everything into one big pile, and we'll see. Now the funny thing is now I'm going to have to trade one of those running backs with something to get a quarterback so I can stay afloat. So see how it goes.
That's why you can always trade yourself back into good decisions, right?
That should be on a T-shirt somewhere, I think. Eh? Where we trade ourselves into out of bad decisions. I like it.
All right. So, friend of the show, Jay Wall says traded 207 Trey Lance for Devontae Parker and a 2023 second rounder in a 1 QB. Thoughts?
In a 1 QB. In a 1 QB league, I don't mind it. I think Trey Lance has a ton of upside. I would love to know what the team structure kind of was, because that's it's a big influence there. Devontae Parker is going to probably be useless after this season. I mean, I don't know if you guys have looked into reception perception or just watched Devontae Parker a ton. He couldn't get open against us 3. We could just sit there. We could try to formulate a bracket here, and he's not getting open. And with Tua likes to throw to people who are open. He doesn't like to put the ball in bad spots. And Devontae Parker, that's what you need. You need ball in bad spots because that's the only way he's making plays is just by being bigger and stronger. And, yeah, with that quarterback room, I would want Trey Lance because you need the youth. And, Rodgers or Watson, uncertainty. Fitzmagic, I could see him getting benched. I could see him being great, being benched, and Rodgers definitely has more years in him, but Trey Lance could be Konami code. And that's always a winner in fantasy football.
I love J-Wall. I hate that trade. That's all I really have to say.
Well, and the tough thing with this trade, looking at his quarterback room, is that, do you have the next host of Jeopardy, a guy who's not playing football anymore, and a Harvard professor this year or next year? You could easily go from having a solid group to having nothing very quickly because there's so much uncertainty with all these guys. I'm not saying that I think Aaron Rodgers is going to just go do something else, but he is.
I was trying to make it faster than that, but it I'm sorry. You said first round pick for Andy Dalton.
Sure
I couldn't do it.
I'll wear that one. That's good stuff, man.
If I could
thanks for coming on. Well, thanks a lot, everybody, for tuning in. We'll see you next week.
I couldn't help but do it.
Microphone has been dropped.
I love it. So in the chat, Brad, I don't know how to do these fancy things with the chat this week, but J Wall also says that he has Rodgers, Watson, and Fitzmagic. In a 1 QB league, you should trade almost all of those guys, right? Like you should not be carrying that. Like last year, you should have traded Rodgers or Watson when they were both top 5 fantasy quarterbacks. In a 1 QB league, you're just burning a roster spot when you can cash out. So that's what I would say. But
so what I'm hearing is when you lose tomorrow night's game show, that's your punishment, is you're wearing a clown outfit on the stream.
I will tell you right now, and I apologize to my partner Jay, that we'll take any bets that anybody wants to make. So if it's a clown suit, sure, not a problem. I'm just wondering what JL and Rick are going to show up in next time I see them on their streams when they lose.
Ooh, look at him bringing the heat from the north. All right,
Look, it's hot up here today.
So our boy Josh says Jonathan Taylor or Josh Jacobs and Jerry Jeudy.
I wish it was just any other running back besides Josh Jacobs.
I know. I love Josh Jacobs. I hate what Vegas is doing.
I'll say this. I think Jonathan Taylor is being overvalued right now, currently. I think he's a good running back, but I saw enough of just a committee of guys doing stuff for the Colts a lot last year. And they definitely committed to him at the end of the year and they made those big push. But Aaron Jones, for example, has had some of that type of thing. And Cam Akers had the exact same thing. And Cam Akers isn't going in the top 5 of dynasty drafts. I think I'm taking the Jonathan Taylor side because it just literally says Josh Jacobs. And that's what scares me about this. I love Jerry Jeudy. I know people had a problem with his drops, but a guy who can consistently get open is huge. And Jerry Jeudy did that. I've seen him do it since he was in high school. I've seen him do it in college, the pros, everywhere that kid's gone, he's been able to get open. And I know the quarterback situation is a scary thing, but quarterback situation changes so fast in the NFL, where you had the Vikings where it is for long stretches, I don't want anything to do with that passing offense. And then all of a sudden you get an offense that made Case Keenum actually give Adam Thielen some work. And, oh, wow, Adam Thielen's starting to be good. And then Kirk Cousins comes in, and it's okay, now those wide receivers are fun to have. I think Jerry Jeudy is one of the guys that I'm buying in Dynasty a lot. So those are my 2 cents.
What about your 2 cents, Sully?
My 2 cents. I am 100% in agreement with Jordan, and I don't want to take the Jonathan Taylor side here, but I think you kind of have to for a couple of reasons. And the main one is that I believe Jonathan Taylor is overvalued, and I think he could get more from somebody else. I also really like Jerry Jeudy. We're really, really big fans of route runners, and he is the best route runner out of his class, and probably, since Calvin Ridley, maybe. He's an exceptional route runner, and I really like him. He had some drops, but you can't catch, what you can't catch. And if you really take a look at it, it's way more than just Drew Lock when you look at the quarterbacks that threw him footballs last year, and he had 100 targets. And Cortland Sutton coming back helps Jerry Jeudy, in my opinion. So if you can buy Jerry Jeudy, do it. I just don't know if you do it at the expense of Jonathan Taylor. That's all.
Yeah, it's a tough question because Josh Jacobs is a good running back in a situation that I often want to ask. I wish I could get on conversation with Gruden and say, why do you hate Josh Jacobs? What did he do? Did he beat your son in MMA or something? What's the problem here? Josh Jacobs really should be valued and have much more value than he is. I would agree with you guys. I'd probably lean Jonathan Taylor. I don't think Marlon Mack comes back and does much to affect his value.
No,
I think Taylor continues to grow and develop and get more action. But I hate doing it. I love Jerry Jeudy. I love Josh Jacobs, but I can't do it either. As much as I want to do it. Okay. So J Wall says Jeudy has 26 incomplete targets that were QB's fault last season, which was the most in the NFL. He's a stud. With all that said, I'll take JT as well. Way to build him up to shut him down.
He still had a 46% completion percentage, or catch rate. So it's not all on the quarterback, but I'm a big fan of his.
Yeah, for sure.
It's tough with Judy. I mean, like the receivers also, like, I know it's not a big like deal in our mindset, but like going from a college size football to an NFL size football is in a single season with a pandemic where you probably, I know like, oh, you could go outside and throw the football around, but it just wasn't worked on as much as most rookies get. That's an adjustment period. I mean, Lamar Jackson said it in an interview the year before his MVP season where he said like the first time he threw a football in the NFL was like wobbly, it was like a duck throw, and he's like, I had to learn how to throw a football again because I was so used to throwing the college football where it's much smaller, and for receivers, like it's a different size ball, it's a completely different system. It's tough. Like it's not something that every athlete gets the first year, and that's why guys have late breakouts.
Absolutely,
that's a great point.
Yep, that's wonderful.
You got to change that background, man. I can't keep looking at it.
Okay, don't worry. I'll go back to the start.
I'll say next we'll have to get some photoshopping of Sully's face in a clown outfit. That's all I'm saying.
Well, if Rick's calling his shot, tune in next week, folks.
Yeah, and and if you guys have questions in the chat, I love and appreciate you guys hanging out with us and throwing the good questions up there and having fun with us. If you have questions, get them in. We've got a couple minutes left. Oh, Josh says, I think you guys broke down JT versus Jacobs and Judy's situation perfectly. So well done, you guys. You rock.
Thanks, Jeff.
The one thing I will say about handling your picks in season is, don't be afraid to move them, but also don't be afraid to hoard them. I think your team makeup is critical in all these conversations, so like we've said in rookie draft season, in mid-season, it all matters about what your team is doing. I'm not afraid to go get picks. Even if the class appears to be down, I'm not afraid to hoard picks because you never know what you're going to need to do to get up into the top 5 of a class. So if you need to have multiple picks to bunch together, I mean, I had to bunch 1-9, 1-10 with players to get to 1-5,
Right.
Don't be afraid to do it.
Great.
You really have to, I mean, kind of like in the NFL, you have to leave it all on the field. In fantasy, you have to leave it all on the field because somebody else is going to make the trade if you are not going to do it. So get out there, make those trades, make it happen. And I think that's all we really have to talk about with pick trading. I mean, we kind of beat that horse tonight. So to close it out, we've got 3 minutes left. I want to give our boy Jordan time to promote all his stuff once more for anybody who wasn't there at the beginning of the show and isn't going to go back and watch it. Jordan, I really do appreciate it. It's been a blast having you on and being able to chit chat. So we want to make sure we get you back on again soon because you're the man. But promote yourself. Talk about all the stuff you got going on. Tell everybody where they can find you, what you're up to, and it's all you, man.
Yeah, you can find me over at Gridiron Ratings for writing and projections that'll be coming out for the DFS season. We're actually about to release shortly our draft guide that we have like player cards where it's like where to draft and redraft. It's a huge product where it's almost like a magazine type thing. Right now it's at 280 pages with IDP. It's massive because we have these player cards that 2 of them fill up a whole page. So it's just a lot of stuff like that. I handle a lot of the receiver projections with mixing in the other positions. Chalk Blocked, we've got a lot of shows coming up as well. Last week we had Matt Harmon, which was a great show.
Nice.
Huge insight. His detailed routes and stuff, and just he's a funny guy. He's like, oh, I can't do everybody, because I was like, oh, why don't you put out like more of the receiver? He's like, I'm not watching every single receiver. I'm going to cut up this group because I think they're relevant. That's what I want to talk about. I'm like, that's fair. And with the Rumboyz, you'll see a little bit more as the season kind of gets towards DFS because that's what I do best. That's my thing. College football as well. I'm going to dabble into that. I don't know if I'm going to produce content yet because I got to learn it. Last year I had huge success because of one of the guys that I follow, but yeah, that's pretty much where you can find me. JordanVanek1. You'll see me retweet, send out some memes, and interact with a lot of different people in this space.
Great follow on Twitter. Highly entertaining. And Jordan doesn't sell himself as the DFS content provider that he is. He's had, if you check out his Twitter page, he's had some great percentages and had a really good year last year. So the man knows what he's doing. So follow him and listen to him, and you'll be fine.
Yeah, for sure. DFS is a hard thing to really be good at, and from what I've experienced and seen, you do an excellent job. So keep up the great work. Thank you for joining us. For everybody who's still out there in the chat, we love you guys. Take care of yourselves. We next week have on G-Man J. I'm probably going to screw that thing up 100 times, but he's going to be on next week, and we're going to be talking hot takes. If you thought tonight was fire, next week's supposed to be literal fire. We're going to be dropping hot takes and probably making the dumbest, bold decisions and giving you advice for 2021 that you're going to look back and say these guys are knuckleheads. But we're going to have fun with it because from what I've seen and heard, he is an awesome guest. So we will have fun with it tomorrow night. Again, I'm going to say it. Polar perception. We're going to be going at it with our boys from FYF, and actually we're teaming up, so it'll be pretty fun to see how we do against each other. So make sure you guys join us. Have fun with us as well. We love you guys. We will talk to you again tomorrow.
Take care.
Also, right there, playlist. Hit it. Watch the videos. Do it.